to City Council meeting. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the chair statement. In accordance with Utah Code 52-4207, version 4, Open and Public Meeting Act, I have determined that to protect the health and welfare of Murray citizens, an in-person city council meeting, including attendance by the public and the city council, is not practical or prudent. Considering the continued rise of COVID case counts in Utah, meeting in an anchor location presents substantial risk to the health and safety of those in attendance because physical distancing measures may be difficult to maintain in the Murray City Council chambers. The Center of Disease Control states that COVID-19 is easily spread from person to person between people who are close contact with one another. The spread is through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks, and may be spread by people who are non-symptomatic. It is my intent to safeguard the lives of Murray residents, business owners, employees, and elected officials by meeting remotely through electronic means without an anchor location. You may view the meeting via the live stream at www.murraycitylive.com or on our Facebook page, Murray City, Utah. If you would like to submit citizen comments or public hearing comments, you may do so by sending an email in advance or during the meeting to city.council@murray.utah.gov. Comments are limited to less than 3 minutes, approximately 300 words. Include your name and contact information, and they will be read into the record. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn over the time to Diane.
Diane, you're on mute.
Thank you. Now is the time to convene the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. And all committee members are present, I'm assuming, because I can't see everybody, but okay, great, thank you. We only have one item of business, and that is approval of minutes for the Budget and Finance Committee meeting for May 15th, 2020. Are there any additions or deletions, questions?
I sent one correction in, but I would move we adopt them with that correction.
Great. Okay. There has been a motion. Is there a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
No, good.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay, Jennifer, would you take the roll?
Ms. Dominguez?
Aye.
Mr. Hells?
Aye.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
And Ms. Turner?
Aye. Okay. The motion passes. The minutes have been approved, and I will adjourn the meeting. So, council meeting.
Okay, and I'll call the council meeting for August 4th to order. First order of business is a Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Brett Hales if he would do it for us.
Thank you. I'd be happy to do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brett.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is approval of the council meeting minutes of July 21st, 2020. Are there any corrections? If not, I'll take a motion.
Okay, I'll move approval of the council meeting minutes for July 21st, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jennifer?
Ms. Dominguez?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Hells?
Aye.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye. Thank you. Next, citizen comments. Do we have any, Jan?
Yes, I actually have 5 comments that have been sent in by email, so I'll read through those.
Thank you.
The first one is from Delyn Barney, and he is a Murray City resident. I would like to see Murray City continue with the Urban Wildlife Assistance Program with Salt Lake County that had been offered through West Jordan Animal Services. I am disappointed to see any animal put down. However, raccoons and skunks have been a problem. The Urban Wildlife Assistance Program has been beneficial at reducing the problem and safety concerns. Thank you, and wear a mask, he says. The next one is from Bob Bedoin, also a Murray City resident. Question about the contract between Murray City and UAMPS and nuclear power. Have you read the new UAMPS power sales contract? Do you understand the contract? Will the Idaho 1995 settlement agreement limiting the storage of nuclear waste in the state impact the project? Would you invest your own personal funds in the project? And that's it. The next one is from Bill Strong, who is also a Murray City resident. Each of you should have received an email from me about Murray City Council considering changing the ordinance with regards to the number of cats and dogs that a household can own. But in case you don't, read your email, and I am sending this email to the entire council. I am totally opposed to this idea. Nobody should be allowed to have more than 2 dogs for a number of reasons. 1, most dog owners don't obey the leash laws. 2, if you allow someone to own 4 dogs and they get 4 pit bulls or 4 Rottweilers, the potential that someone is going to get bit or killed increases dramatically. 3, 30 to 50 people die each year in the United States from dog attacks. And then he gives a link to Wikipedia for the list of fatal dog attacks in the United States. If Murray City Council changes this ordinance and if I am ever attacked by a dog, I will sue each of you personally and Murray City for damages. This is ridiculous that you are even considering changing the ordinance to allow someone to own more than 2 dogs. Bill Strong. The next one is from Shauna Sandberg. I'm sure you get tired of hearing complaints, but I just wanted to say that I am dismayed and disappointed at the types of businesses that are going in on State Street between 4800 South and 5300 South. I thought this area was going to be redeveloped and sort of gentrified. I hated to see the antique store go, and now Wright's costume and the dance studio. And some of this was even before COVID. So who knows if they could have survived that. But I thought there was some kind of city plan to attract upscale businesses and housing. Instead, we have a hemp place, another tattoo parlor. And is it a psychic that has gone into the Capri hair salon building? Not exactly the kind of businesses or clientele that I thought Murray was seeking in an effort to revive and restore our downtown area. I would love to see something more vibrant and development that would inspire more confidence in investing in the area. I don't mean to be a snob, but not exactly the kind of places I or my children or my parents frequent. Thoughts? Wasn't there a city council plan for all of this? Thanks in advance for all you do. And the final citizen comment is from Richard and Beverly Krangle, also Murray City residents. Members of the police force are not only valued citizens, but are essential to our civilized and mostly peaceful way of life. Many are heroic in everyday activities to uphold the law and keep order, risking their lives to protect citizens and their property. The media are doing great harm in telling about or showing video clips which distort the reality and disguise the crimes being committed. Parts that do not tell or portray the chosen story will be omitted by editing the video clips. If the evidence of a crime or verdict do not comply with the story grows bigger and louder. Criminals are now being portrayed as victims of police brutality. The reality on video clips has shown heroic duty by police officers. Our local television stations showed a short clip numerous times in May and June and into July of Bernardo running after committing a crime and implied that he was shot in the back by police. This was not the case. Extreme caution was taken. The officers waited to confirm that he was armed, and he was shot only when attempting to shoot at police. Instead of working on solutions to problems, media have been shutting out and shutting down websites that relay factual information to dispel some of the myths of racism and other problems. All of us need to be grateful that members of our police force, these strong and courageous people, are willing to show up and serve our communities. Thanks to members of our police force for their service and to all who support them, including their families and staff. I think I failed to mention that Richard and Beverly Krangle are citizens of Murray, residents. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Next, we will have a public hearing. Consider an ordinance related to land use amendments of the general plan for low-density residential and minimum density residential, and amends the zoning map from R18 to RM10 for the properties located approximately 388 East and 398 East 48 South. Melinda Greenwood presenting.
Good evening, Council. The applicant requested the zone change. The applicant's Don D. Reichman. And as you mentioned, the address is at 388. Oh, hold on, I'm just double checking. Did I pull up the right one here? Yeah, okay, 388 East, and it's 398 East as well, on 4800 South. The parcels combined are 0.07 acres. And let's see if this will advance here. This slide here shows an aerial view of the property for the zone request. You can see from the photo that it's in back of properties that front or Murray Holiday Road, that 4800 South. And the subdivision at the bottom of the screen, well, originally this property was all owned by one owner, and I think it was subdivided back in the 50s. And when that subdivision took place, there must have been some errors in the survey work, and it created a couple of these weird little remnant parcels. So this parcel has, in the back of these two homes that front 4800 South, have been treated as part of the properties. And the applicant is wanting to sell the property. Anyway, it's difficult to sell property when they're in different zones. So this is the reason why the zone request is before us today. But this next slide shows the current zoning. And you can tell the property that fronts 4800 South, those are zoned RM10, and those below in the cul-de-sac are zoned R18. This is a future land use map that shows the future land use of these properties is to remain medium density residential, which fits into the RM10. This is an aerial view again of the street, and then looking south from 4800 South at the property. Just to let the council and the public know, there is a little bit of a difference between allowed uses between the existing zone, which is R18, and the proposed zone. Both allow for single family detached dwellings, 8,000 square foot lots. The R18 zone also allows for charter schools, residential daycare, things like apiaries, and conditional uses include attached single-family dwellings in planned unit developments and apiaries, etc. The RM10 zone will allow for two-family dwellings on lots of 10,000 square feet or more. Also would allow for charter schools and residential daycares. And then again, conditional uses in this zone include attached single-family dwellings, multifamily dwellings of 7 units to an acre, a bed and breakfast, retirement home, etc. There was a planning commission meeting held on June 4th where this item came before the commission and they held a public hearing. We had mailed out 54 public notices for the item. We did receive 2 public comments at that meeting, and they both stated concern regarding the potential for multifamily housing. However, with the size of these lots, there would only be able to be 1 duplex on all 3 lots if the homes were removed, and that essentially leaves the same number as residential units as there is right now, which is 2. But again, the plan at this point is for her to be able to sell the property, and it has to be in the same zone to be able to do that. So the Planning Commission voted unanimously 7-0 to send the City Council a recommendation for approval. So again, we have 2 items here, the request to amend the Murray City General Plan and the request to amend the Murray City zoning map. Staff and the Planning Commission both recommend the City Council approve these items. And I'd love to try and address any questions you may have. The long and short of this is that this is a housekeeping item. The parcel should have maintained the same zoning as the parent parcel, but just through the process of how things had worked, they just ended up in a different zone. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Melinda?
Yes, I do have a few questions. So to help me understand the zoning, so based on what you said, there could only be 2 units if they were to combine the 2 properties, let's say 4 there. Is that my understanding? Or because is it per acre? So like 7 units per acre, or how does that? Help me understand that.
So it's based on lot size. And so if the resident were to combine all 3 of these parcels and remove the home, they still would only be able to build a duplex. And so in the end, you still end up with 2 residential units. So it's the same difference, but the lot size would not be large enough for anything other than that to occur. But her intent, you can tell this is 1 parcel in the back of both of the homes. Her intent is to subdivide that parcel and sell it along with the parent lot. So there's no intent for her to demolish buildings or do anything other than just sell the parcels as 1 unit. With the current zoning, it just can't be done until the zoning for that, that remnant parcel behind is the same as the parcels in the front.
So was that parcel owned by the city for utilities at some point before all these developments went in, or how is it that we missed that 1 parcel?
So as I mentioned, I mean, back in the 50s or 60s when this piece of property was initially subdivided, this is our best guess, but the survey equipment and technology just wasn't as astute as it is now. And so there were somehow these gaps in the survey that created these 3 remainder parcels. We've got the one with the zone change request right now, and then these other 2. And so when it was recorded, there just happened to be these gaps in the survey. And at some point in time, then the county must have recognized that those gaps existed as the technology improved. And so they just assigned them there with the parent parcel. And So that's our best guess. Technology now with surveying is a lot better, and counties tend to double check, make sure that all of the legal descriptions close correctly before they will even accept a legal description or record a plat. So these types of mistakes are less common than they were 3, 4 decades, 5 decades ago. So to answer your question, no, it was never owned by the city. It just happened to be a weird gap in the survey that created the remnant parcel. And then as far as how it was missed, when general plan updates are done, they usually just go in and grab properties that, front an area. And we had one like this earlier this year where there were again some parcels in the back that ended up with a different zoning, and it just happens. I mean, with how many different pieces of property there are in Murray, and it can be hard to understand where these little remnant parcels exist. And I don't know, when in the past this was missed, but it's something that just happens when general plans or when zoning changes are made, and we just don't recognize that there's another parcel behind there that's tied to it.
Okay. And my last question to this is, how is it, I know there's a big controversial unit that went up right on the other side of Crest and Murray Holiday Road, that they have multiple units in that one structure. How do we know, or how do we avoid that to happen in this area if they can do a duplex and not do like a fourplex, which was, I guess, now created. So I just want to address some of the concerns that came to me from citizens in this neighborhood as well.
So the simple answer in that lies with the required square footage of a lot size. So the lot, if all 3 of those lots were combined, they would barely have 10,000 square feet. And as you can see here on the proposed zone, 2-family dwellings are allowed on 10,000 square foot lots. Anything that would be less than that would only allow a single family dwelling. So it's not something that would be allowed per the zone.
Okay. Thank you so much, Melinda.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from the council? Okay, does the, applicant or their representative have anything to add? Not hearing any, I'll open up the public hearing. Do we have any comments, Jan?
Yes, I have 5 comments that have come in. I'll read through them. This is from Harry and Carol Nihus. We live at 4864 South Cross Creek Lane and are very concerned that this property is being considered from low-density single-family to medium-density residential. Changing these lots to RM10 will affect our privacy and our livability in our backyard. We are concerned about an additional rental property close to our house. We are concerned about the number of cars that will be parking on 4800 South. We are concerned about the additional traffic, and we are concerned about the level of crime that comes with high rental property. We are concerned about additional noise level. We realize that progress is happening in Murray, but upper 4800 South is not the answer. 4800 South is becoming another Vine Street with terrible traffic. It's becoming impossible to make left-hand turn from Stone Creek Drive. To summarize, we are against amending the zoning map. Leave the lots in question how they are. The second one is from Sandy and Jim Seal, and they are also Murray residents on Stonecrest Drive. I have a concern amending the general plan from low-density housing to medium-density housing. This is putting a strain on our city. Even though it creates taxes, it puts a strain on infrastructure within Murray. If we give in to medium density, the next step is high density, and no one wants that. This will put a strain on 1, traffic on 4800 South, crazy busy now, dangerous at Atwood, and 4800 South. 2, an increase to clean water demand. 3, increase in water treatment. 4, increase in utilities, garbage pickup, etc. 5, schools, facilities, and roads, which need help now. Our roads are horrible. We moved here because it was small and wanted to live in a small community. We think the city should stick to single and 2-family dwellings, no more apartment complexes. The property in question affects the people that live close to this proposed change. These people are the ones that should have some say. They already pay taxes. And the next one is from Linda Wild. She also lives in the area. To whom it may concern, I'm against amending this area to medium density. Please keep it low density, single family. We have too much traffic on 4800 South as it is. Apartments are too many and there's nowhere to park. Traffic lights with running arrows are needed even now, with turning arrows are needed even now. People race on 4800 South at night, especially. Our taxes go up each year, but not updates and safety. Atwood and 4800 South needs a stoplight or there will be additional accidents. Thanks. The next one is from Larry Pond. He's also a resident in the neighborhood. I live in a single family home. My backyard is adjacent to the 388 East and 398 East properties that have been requested to change zoning. My concern is that changing the zoning would allow the home at 398 East that is now a rental to be converted into a multiple apartment units and rented. The 388 property is for sale with a single family home on it. Changing the zoning encourages developers to be interested not in the house, but the property, not families looking for a home to raise children, but business making a profit. The request to change the zoning is made by people who do not live in these homes, but make business decisions based on gain. I am a resident of Murray and I live here. I do not believe this is what is best for Murray. Our family has lived at the location for over 20 years. We do not support zoning change to encourage the building of apartments in a single family neighborhood. And the next one is from Jamie Pond, also a resident in the neighborhood. I live in a single family home. Our backyard is immediately adjacent to 388 East and 398 East, 4800 South properties. I am concerned with the proposed zoning changes that will convert a rental into a multi-unit apartment complex and the possibility of apartments. Our family has lived at the location for over 20 years. I feel that these changes to the zoning will cause a disturbance to our community, which will cause many changes that will disrupt our neighborhood, including noise level, property value, and increased parking and congestion on 4800 South. I do not support the zoning change to encourage the building of apartments in a single-family neighborhood that is right next to our backyard. In addition, we do not support the changing of the 398 residents into a multi-family home. We are not happy with these proposed zoning changes and request that the changes be denied. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Are there any questions?
So just to clarify, Melinda, with the way that the zoning is and the size of those lots, could there be more high density housing? Are those concerns founded?
So again, to just follow the intent of the applicant, and let me do a screen share here to just show you in a little more detail. So this is the remnant parcel that, oh, it's showing the different screen. Hold on. Okay. Or not. It's still showing the presentation. Try that one more time. There is a shed that straddles the property lines. Okay, let me see if this will now allow me to share the right screen. Okay, are you guys seeing the aerial of the property there? Okay, yeah, it looks like you are. So again, her intent is to combine these two, basically to do a lot line adjustment and combine the lots so that these two parent parcels have the property behind them in the same zone so that she can sell it. Legally, you cannot combine two properties that are zoned different. And this property in particular has a shed that straddles the property line. And that's also problematic when you're trying to sell a property and there's a structure that goes across property lines. So her intent is to combine these lots. So this would be one single lot and this would be another single lot. I think she wants to sell one of them. But to answer your question, the way the zone regulations are for the RM10, there would not be enough property to do multifamily housing. Again, I think the practicality is that they would have enough property to put, if they removed the homes and then constructed a duplex, there would be enough property for them to do that. But the count is still the same in the end. There's 2 residential units. So it's certainly in the zone could be a possibility, but I think with the constraints of the property here and the housing that's already existing, I think the practicality of that happening just is not something that is likely.
Thank you for going back over just what is possible in the zone, because I know that people have lots of plans, but once something is zoned a certain way, that's what it's zoned. But it looks like that square footage is about maxed out. Thank you.
And Melinda, let me ask you, I know what parcel is being sold, but it's just the one parcel that she's trying to sell, correct?
So she owns all 3 parcels. But again, that back parcel is zoned a different zone. So I'm not sure which of the properties she's wanting to sell, but she wants to combine so that again, she'll end up with 2 parcels. They'll all be zoned the same, and that 3rd parcel will just be absorbed into the other parcels. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to kind of zone it in. So it's one parcel that's being sold, or one part of the property. You want to combine the back parcel to match the front. So it's not all 3 parcels that they're trying to sell, which then would become 2.
Yeah, correct. So the intent is to do a lot combination. And again, you legally can't do a lot combination unless the zoning is consistent with both lots. So with one being R18, she can't combine it with the one with RM10. So with us, if the council approves the zone map amendment and the general plan amendment, it would go then to R110, and she could combine, she could combine all 3 lots into one and have about a half-acre parcel, I think. But the intent is to combine the 3 lots with that back part that corresponds with the parent lot into 2 separate lots. So there still would remain the 2 single-family dwellings that are on those properties. It just would have that back portion added into the lot. I think they're about 10,000 square feet in size right now, and with the addition of those other, let's see, I think it was 3,000 square feet. So in the end, both lots would end up being about 11,000 square feet, 11,500 square feet.
And right now, that's not the case. They're not trying to sell all 3 lots. It's just the one connecting it to the back, rezoning it to sell 1 lot.
Yeah, I mean, that lot in the back really, I mean, I suppose they could try and sell it, but there's nothing that could be done with it other than it wouldn't be big enough to develop or do anything with it other than have it go along with one of the parent parcels. There wouldn't be any access to it. 3,000 square foot lot, long and skinny, there's just really nothing that can be done with that.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question. Wanted to make sure I understand and my constituents understand as well. Like I said, there's been some problems in this area and concerns that residents have. So, and I appreciate them for addressing. I know I got calls today as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If there aren't, I'll look for a motion.
I'll move to adopt an ordinance relating to the land use amends the general plan for low density residential to medium density residential, and amends the zoning map from R18 to RM10 for the properties located approximately at 388 and 398 East, 4800 South, Murray City, Utah.
Thank you, Brett. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Jennifer.
Ms. Dominguez,
I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Ms. Turner,
Aye.
thank you. Mr. Hells,
Aye.
Ms. Martinez,
Aye.
Mr. Cox.
Well, with Rosalba being in her district, it makes me nervous she's abstained. But I'll vote aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, consider an ordinance amending section 6.04.010 and 6.16.015 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to limitations on the number of dogs and cats allowed. Kat Martinez presenting.
Thank you. And Jen, can I share my screen? I could probably sure try, right?
Yeah, it's set up to share.
Great. All right. So looking at regulation of dogs and cats limitations, I just want to go over the 3 principles that we looked at altering. So previously, it was the total number of dogs and cats that could be owned harbored, licensed, and maintained by any one person at any one property or residents of the city shall not exceed 2 dogs and 2 cats. The proposed shift there is to change it to 4 in any combination. Okay. So it's not expanding the cap, it's just giving flexibility in the middle. So that was A. Another change is to add a C, and that is an animal foster provider is exempt from the limitation imposed pursuant to subsection A, provided that all dogs and cats are properly cared for and do not become a nuisance as defined in this chapter. And I've got 2 people on who are going to help me out talking a little bit more about what fostering is and what that looks like. But right now, Murray does not allow or accommodate fostering at all. And then adding in, a person may harbor no more than 1 litter of animals, puppies or kittens, in any 1 calendar year. If the litter exceeds the limitations imposed pursuant to subsection A, the person will have 8 weeks from the day the litter was born to reduce the number to get back into compliance of 4. And this is because state code allows for animals to be with their mother for 8 weeks before selling them. And so this would bring us in alignment with state code. So with that, the goals for this proposed amendment is to give residents more flexibility with taking out the this and this and just giving it the 4 general amount. To encourage the licensing of animals, we find when there's tighter restrictions that people don't have fewer animals, they just don't license them. Enable compliance with the state code by keeping litters with their mother for 8 weeks, and maintaining a focus on health and safety of residents and their animals within that. So who we've got with us today is Rachel, an advocacy director from the Humane Society, and Carrie, she's our Murray City Shelter Liaison with Salt Lake County Animal Services. So if it's all right, I will stop sharing this and turn it over to Rachel first to share some information about what brought this proposition as well, and then Carrie can help us answer questions. All right, go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, so I actually have, well, I did have something to show you, but it's not working for me right now, so I guess I'm gonna wing it. So thank you so much for hearing from me again, I appreciate it. So the main thing that I wanna talk about tonight is COVID-19, how that impacted our shelter operations and our foster program. So COVID-19, when it hit, and it hit hard, it hit our shelter and caused us to ask 2 main questions. And the main questions that we asked were, first, are we going to be able to remain open? And if we are able to remain open, are we going to be working with a reduced staff? So thankfully, we were able to remain open, but we were required to reduce staff. And this is because the governor put in place an order to preserve PPE, personal protective equipment, for first responders. So non-essential veterinary services were suspended. That means that our clinic, our only source of income, had to close. So we had to reduce our staff by about 50%. That didn't change the number of animals we had in the shelter, and it did not change the need around the state from municipal shelters that rely on us to transfer animals out when they're overwhelmed. And, you know, not to get graphic, but outside of Salt Lake County, euthanasia is extremely common, and it's not in the same method that we are used to. So when these shelters get overwhelmed in rural areas, these animals are shot to death or they are gassed to death. So it's really important that we're able to bring these animals in and care for them. And part of why we were able to do that is through our foster program. So foster programs, the way they work generally is that the organization maintains ownership of the animal and pays for all of the care, the veterinary care, food, water, all of that, but the animal is housed in someone else's home. The way HSU works, we have an application process, we have a significant and comprehensive policy that people have to follow, and we have a contract that they have to sign. So the most important parts of the policy for the purposes of this ordinance are that if you're fostering with another organization, you can't foster with us. If your animals are unvaccinated or unaltered, you can't foster with us. You are not allowed to place animals up for adoption without going through our adoption process. Even if you want to adopt the animal yourself, we do that. It's our job because they're our animals. And in the contract that they sign, it states specifically that we can take those animals back if they even miss an appointment with us. So in short, we maintain complete control over those animals. They're just housed in a different place. And it's generally for a short duration. So we're not talking about long-term fosters. I mean, COVID obviously is continuously going on and feels like it will never end. But generally fosters only last a couple weeks at a time until we're able to adopt out an animal. So that's the bulk of what I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the policy behind pet limits, but I will save that for another time. So I'm happy to answer questions either now or after Carrie's done speaking.
Do you have anything you want to add, Carrie, before we jump to questions?
Hi, everybody. So I would repeat what Rachel was saying in that fostering is a vital program, same as Humane Society when COVID hit us, as well as, I mean, really any year, every shelter and animal organization knows the dreaded kitten season. When those hit, if we don't have foster homes, many animals may not make it. I'm currently fostering a set of unweaned kittens that my husband, who's actually an animal control officer, that is with Salt Lake County, so you guys may see him. But he actually brought in a litter that was, they're under 2 pounds. We're only about 3 to 4 weeks old. And a lot of times we work with Humane Society, Best Friends, a lot of rescue organizations that can take them in, but they can take them in through foster homes. So it kind of is a cycle, but they actually didn't have anybody available. So if I wasn't able to foster, then we wouldn't have been able to have them. So fostering is a vital program, not just for municipal shelters, but for rescue organizations and many Humane Society, many businesses. That's all I had, unless you guys have any questions.
Yeah, questions?
Or any questions on the ordinance change, anything like that. I'm happy to answer any.
Kat, I have a question. This is a hard one for me because I've had bad experiences with constituents that have had problems with having too many animals, and so this one's hard. I'm just wondering how many animals can be fostered at one time.
Fostering tends to rely on what the foster could handle, adequately. If there's, say, a large litter of kittens or puppies, we like to keep them grouped. You don't typically want to keep them solo, but if we're trying to find them a home to be cared for until they're ready for adoption, a lot of times we're relying on what the foster can adequately handle, maintaining control as HSU does as well, and offering resources as they need it. But we try to keep them in at least pairs, if not the whole litter. So it kind of just depends on what comes in. There's not a real set number. It's kind of a case-by-case basis.
I just also wanted to add that, we don't really have an incentive to, just keep sending out foster after foster, because this is a financial liability for us as well as, a legal liability for us. Mm-hmm. So we continue to pay for these fosters the entire time they're in care. So what that means is veterinary care, food, if they have an emergency, if God forbid, something really horrible happens to them, or if they cause some horrible damage, That is all on us. So we have an incentive to get these animals adopted, not just lingering in large groups in foster homes.
Conceive,
Oh, I apologize.
that's okay. So conceivably, you could have 4 dogs and then foster 4 dogs. Is that accurate? I mean, that could happen. I've seen crazy things happen. So, it really concerns me.
It is, that is possible. However, the organizations that are releasing the fosters, if they're a responsible, reputable organization, they would not release a foster animal into a care if they didn't feel that foster home could also care for the fosters as well as their own adequately. So if we feel like there may be some, if they're not able to upkeep the care and maintenance, we wouldn't release them into that home.
And how would you know that they weren't able to take care of them?
Many times, depending on the organizations and what their foster procedures are, a lot of times you'll check in with them. A lot of times the fosters that we send out, they're unweaned, so they require regular checkups. And then just keep it in touch with the foster coordinators so that we're aware. You could do home visits, you could do all sorts to ensure, and if there's ever any reports or anything where we're concerned, we can pull the animals out.
We have an entire department for our foster program, and we actually have a foster line for people. But we have an entire foster program so that we are constantly checking in with these people and making sure that the animals are getting the absolute best care that they can outside of our doors. So we would know. And we have, like I said, in our contract, we have it where we can pull them right out of the home if there's any doubt whatsoever that they're getting the care that they need.
And one thing we talked about earlier was just what a high priority disease prevention is, because they are responsible for the veterinarian bills for these animals. That if you get too many animals together, this year with COVID, it's a little scary, but we always joke when our kids go back to school every fall, they get a little kennel cough. Everyone gets a cold when they go back to school, right? And so they really want to avoid that. So they want to keep the group smaller. They don't want as many animals mixing. So that real disease prevention plays a huge role in it as well. So it's the real focus on the health and safety rather than the numbers.
And that's what it's very similar to kids with the daycare effect, school effect. The more you put together, potentially you could have disease. If they're your own pets altogether, their vaccines, their history. So really when fostering comes into play is when you want to have a higher disease protocol, disease prevention, because those still are the organization's animals, but we don't want to infect your own animals or anything. So limiting the number of foster litters or the groups is key. That's why with the 1 litter, or I would say at the most 2, depending on what your setup is, but that's usually very unlikely. It's usually just 1 group per foster home, because we also want to have them do proper disease prevention for their own pets as well. Sorry.
Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Any more questions from the council? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion.
I will go ahead and make a motion that we consider revise and update animal control ordinance. Right? Yes. Sorry,
It's adopting. It's
adopting. Thank you. Adopting the ordinance. Consider an ordinance adopting Chapter 2.7 of Murray Municipal Code relating to public safety. Oh, sorry. I'm reading the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Consider an ordinance amending sections 6.0.0.010 and 6.16.015 of the Murray Municipal Code relating to limitations on the number of dogs and cats allowed.
I have a motion to adopt the ordinance. Do I have a second?
Can I second? Because it's mine. Is that a rule? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can.
Then I'll second it. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer.
Ms. Dominguez,
Aye.
Ms. Turner,
Oh, this is so hard for me. I've had such bad experiences, and I really, really want to support you, Kat. But I just can't vote for it, so I have to vote no.
Mr. Hells,
Aye.
Ms. Martinez,
Aye.
Mr. Cox.
Aye. Motion. We'll move on to consider an ordinance adopting Chapter 2.70 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to Public Safety Advisory Board. Mayor Blair Camp presenting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. If you recall, 2 weeks ago in the Committee of the Whole, we presented an ordinance creating a Public Safety Advisory Board. There were no questions or comments from the council at that time. So what's before you tonight is exactly that same ordinance. It hasn't been amended at all. So unless there are other questions for me or for GL who drafted the ordinance, then I'll just ask you for action.
Are there any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion. Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So one thing I absolutely love about the language in this is the amount of training and experience so that those on it can really understand all the different pieces. But as I was looking over, I wondered if there, and forgive me because I'm obviously new to how this works, if we adopt it and then it becomes too challenging for members to complete that amount of training in the amount of time specified, what is there a procedure for amending that or for allowing more time? That just is something that popped into my head of concern, especially if we want people from all different backgrounds who might have different work schedules and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and GL, maybe you could address that, but I believe that there's enough flexibility within the administrative authority to accommodate those kinds of things. But GL, you could correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I think it's important to realize their training is really integral to making this work. And so I think 6 months, you're really talking about, we've had this Utah Open Public Meetings Act training before that didn't take too long. It should not be too extensive except for the ride-alongs, arranging that. What you would do is you could come back and amend this, or we could administratively simply extend that time so they have time to get that. The intent is not to derail this because they didn't get their training. The intent is to say, once they're trained, they'll be really even more valuable than just coming to it as citizens.
Thank you. Yeah, and it is something I really appreciated about it initially. And then as I was reviewing it, I was having flashbacks from when I was on a board a couple of years ago that required 60 hours of training and trying to get that in. But it sounds like there's flexibility to make it work depending on the people on it. So that was my only question. Thank you.
Can I say something as well?
You bet.
Oh,
I do appreciate, oh, sorry, Diane.
okay.
I do appreciate the language as well in this. And I do want to just remind citizens, one, it can be amended if there is something that we need to change in this process and this board. And two, Mayor, I know between all of us, we have some great people that we would love to see on this board to really consider them. And once those resumes and information comes through to you about who you're going to select. I think it would be great to have, I think we have some great citizens that would be able to contribute to this board and really show each other and show the departments how much we are supporting them. And I just want to commend both, the fire department and the police department, that we have wonderful chiefs as well. And they really are taking it to heart and everything that they've done in their own departments. So please know that we definitely have everybody's best interests at heart here. And with this, we are proud to really join forces with you on this, Mayor, at least for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do have a number of really great people that will be good on this board. And I think that we're not going to have trouble finding good people. We're going to have trouble narrowing it down to the number of people. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, Dale, I have a comment. I think this is a great idea, and I think it's really an important board, and I want to make sure that it's not just a board to say we have this advisory board. I would like to make sure that they really do advise and that they are able to act. And I talked with GL about this, and he told me that was the important part of this board. So anyway, I just want to say I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure the board really is active. And that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
I will make the motion that we adopt Chapter 2.70 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the Public Safety Advisory Board.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Jennifer?
Ms. Dominguez?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Hells?
Aye.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye. Okay, before we go to the mayor's report, I was notified we missed the citizens' comment. Jan, would you read that for us?
Yes, this actually came in during the meeting. So I know when people are watching, it's hard to get it in right at the beginning of the meeting. So thank you for allowing me to read this. To the Murray City Council, I am Patrick Womack and live in Murray. I am writing concerning the new change of the city code about pet ownership in Murray. I feel that this change is good and may actually not go far enough. I believe if people are able to contain, feed, and care for the animals in their home, that they should be able to have as many as they desire. I don't mean to say they should be permitted to create a health and safety issue, but by permitting more animals, you give futures to those animals. Making Murray an animal-friendly city would be a positive move in what is rather negative time in our society. Patrick, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jan. We'll move on to the mayor's report.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things this evening. I'd like to remind the council as well as the public that this Friday night, our movie in the park will be The Rookie, and it will begin at 9 p.m. Also on Friday night, there will be a concert at 7:30 in the amphitheater. It will be Jenny Oaks Baker, which should be very good. Tickets are required for that and can be purchased online for $10 each. Also, you're very, very much aware, Council, of the changes in the software that we've been going through for the past several years. We're now to the point of changing the utility billing software that will be going into effect in about a month, in just the next few weeks. You'll see information about this change on our website and also our social media platforms this week. And along with the flyer in the utility bill, we'll also be going out to the residents to make them aware. The bill is going to have a different look. It'll contain more helpful information about power and water consumption. So we're pretty excited about that. A little bit nervous about the changeover, just because there's always a glitch or two when there's a major change like this, but confident that it will go off with very few hitches. So looking forward to that. We have received from the Parks Department kind of an interesting comparison for attendance and for revenues at the Park Center and outdoor pool for the period of January. Somebody was building something. For the period of January to June of 2020 compared to January through June of 2019. And the numbers of memberships sold are about half this year than what they were last year. Revenues are also about half. There are a number of, I think, are fairly interesting statistics, and we will include those in the council communications this week for you to look at if you're interested. We reported it last week that the Fountain of Youth had been issued, the owners of the Fountain of Youth have been issued a demolition permit. Those buildings are being demolished today, at least a really good start on them today. So they should be down this week. So we're excited about that. And then finally, speaking of demolition, if you've been over on West Vine Street near 5th West, you may have noticed that the Pine Hill Business Park is been completely demolished. This makes way for parking for Security National's new building that they have under construction. This kind of goes hand in hand with what Bryant reported earlier with the Finicity MasterCard deal, the expansion over there. So that will be a really great improvement to that area as well. So that's all I had for the council this evening, unless there's any questions.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. It's just about a local sort of city, county current event, and that's, so I'd heard that Murray police were called to the Cottonwood Heights march, but then were sent back because they were not needed when they got there. And it just made me wonder, like, I think our police chief's amazing. I think the policies, that we have in place to make sure we de-escalate and your commitment to public safety is, we're really on a good track. But it made me think, what is like the rubric? What is the threshold for getting called to another city that might not have some of the same? And I don't mean this specifically at Cottonwood Heights' incident at this moment, but just in general, when our police are called, how is the decision made whether or not to send them, and sort of how they can maintain our high standards in other jurisdictions that may have different protocols or policies?
Yeah, in general, the call for help from a police department, when there is something that involves an officer shooting or some other kind of major event where they need some help and they need some help now, they call out, it's an old 10 code, 1033, and that means we need help, all the help we can get now. And officers will respond from available officers from all jurisdictions nearby will head that way while the situation continues to be monitored. And that's what happened in the case the other night. It's very much the same as when the fire departments are dispatched for multiple alarm fires. When an agency calls for help, we send the help, and then we ask the questions as we're responding and as we arrive. And so it actually works out very well in this case. Thankfully, it was de-escalated. I think in going to your the other part of your question about the training and the standards, it's a good question, and I think it's important to keep in mind that the officers do a lot of training together, and they train to the same standards or similar standards, and it's more and more as we go. These standards are, well, they're called standards because they're standardized, and it's not just across jurisdictions, but it's across the entire county and even the state, because they're all state certified. So anyway, does that answer your question? Or
it's getting there. Sorry, just because I kind of like jumped it at you. But it's definitely, I think, an important conversation to keep having with our policies of the rhetoric of a few bad apples, right? Is that if somebody's doing something they shouldn't be, that someone else intervenes. So I guess I just want to make sure that we're having those conversations with our officers, that if they showed up and saw officers from a different city or a different group doing something they shouldn't be, if they were escalating, if they weren't up to our standards, that they would intercede, that they would, be more than just neutral on it. And I know and I'm not trying to accuse of anything. I just think it's really important, because I do hold our officers to such a high standard, and I think they're amazing. And I don't know what every other police station is doing, or I hope that makes sense. And I hope my intent is coming clear, because I know it can get muddy.
well, I think so, and I think it's important to point out that that not everyone is going to run to the center of the melee or the shooting or whatever. And it's much the same with responding fire agencies on a large fire. Staging is what usually happens as an agency arrives. They're staged and then they're assigned where they needed to be assigned. So it can be quite chaotic, and oftentimes is. It's actually also very much there's very much a command and control structure at these scenes.
Thank you for this conversation. I really appreciate it. I had some of the things out in the news were saying that our officers were there. Some said they weren't. And I felt confident that our officers were going to do the right thing. But I wanted to have this conversation so that our residents who called me concerned can hear that, absolutely, that our officers are not elevating situations, that they're de-escalating, and that public safety is number one. So thank you for having this conversation. I appreciate it. That was it.
Okay, thank you for that. I would just like to add a little bit to what Kat just said, and an excellent example of other agencies coming to our rescue was Fashion Place Mall, when we had the shooting over there, and there were agencies from all over the valley that responded. Some unified got there as our officers got there. So it's, as the mayor said, it's a structured. They're very structured. They're trained. We just have to be on top of it. And with that, if there is no other business, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all, and be careful and be safe.
Thank you.
You too, Dale.
Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.
There's all the.
Yeah. Jan?
Yeah.
Good meeting, everybody. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Dan.